Welcome to Crossroads. I'm your host, Joshua Phillip, and today we have with us a familiar face, Mike Lindell, CEO of MyPillow.com. He's here to talk to us about his new book, What Are the Odds?, which tells his story, which I would never suspect.
Yeah, the full title is What Are the Odds? From Crack Addict to CEO.
Yeah, I would have never guessed, but Mike, real pleasure having you on the show.
Great to be here. Yeah.
So first, tell us a bit about your book. When's it available?
I'm pre-selling it now because I have a thing called the Lyndale Recovery Network launching, which and I want to get this launched. I put in all the money. I have millions of dollars into it. It's going to help addicts across the country create thousands upon thousands of jobs. But the book actually is going to come out December 10th. Pre-launched earlier than a normal book would launch because I just want to get this recovery network out there and help our addicts.
And I know one of the themes of your book is this idea of hope. So.
Well, it's pretty much the whole book. My book starts out, it goes back to, my parents divorced when I was 7, when divorces weren't common, and I got put into a new school, and I was very shy, or I would show off. I'd climb out of a moving bus window and jump, or at my 5-year reunion, I was bragging about getting 17 traffic tickets in 2 days, outrunning the cops and going skydiving, and my crashing a motorcycle on the way there, but getting up and going down, my parachute doesn't open. I mean, these things that happened to me, I'm getting my self-worth out of talking about them. And I got home that night after the 5-year reunion and go, I wanted what they had. They had already started families, been through college, had the same job, and this went on. Then I got introduced to cocaine in the 80s, and then I was a very functioning cocaine addict for years, raised a family, 20-year marriage, but that turned to crack in the early 2000s, and then it was
Crack epidemic. That's right. It was a big issue at that time. Yeah.
And for one of the things in my book, what God used me. My pillow is just a platform for a much bigger purpose where I'm at now. But here's a guy that couldn't talk. I couldn't talk to two people, especially when I quit drugs. I mean, I couldn't public speaking. Are you kidding me? I mean, so this is the first infomercial I did. We walked in, and this was in 2011. We had a real audience. I wanted, and just a friend of mine, and these producers came. We were doing it ourselves, but this producer came in the night before, and we're doing our reads, and he texted the other producer. He said, "This guy's the worst I've ever seen. He will never make it on TV." And the next day I walked in, and we're reading our lines. It took 1 hour for one line. And I said, "Can we take the teleprompter down and just I want to do it naturally like I did at these shows for 7 years." And we did it, and I went from 5 employees to 500 in 40 days, back then. But it was quite a journey. With the crack, when the crack started, I invented my pillow in 2004. And
so when you were still going through
it? Still crack. So I kind of poured all my energy into that. It was about a year. My son and I, one of my sons, we'd tear foam every day and try all these different things to go in a pillow. Over 94 different foams we tried. And when we finally had the pillow, I was turned down everywhere. It was shut out. Nobody would take it. I didn't know how to market it. I knew nothing. And someone said, "Well, Mike, why don't you do a kiosk?" I said, "Well, how do you spell that?" I didn't know what a kiosk was. I did this kiosk, and I couldn't do it. You're interacting with people, and I obviously I couldn't be on drugs while I was out there. That was into crack. That even makes you more paranoid. And this guy came up, and I sold him a pillow, and he said, "You got a business card?" And I said, "I'm all out." And I wrote out a piece of paper, gave him that number. And that kiosk failed miserably, but in January that year, that guy called me and he said, "I think I invented this pillow." I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, this changed my life. This is the best product I've ever bought." And I said, he says, "I run the Minneapolis Home and Garden Show. Would you like a spot in there?" So I said, "Sure." I had no money left. I had mortgaged our house for Christmas presents. There was nothing left. And so I go into this home and garden show, and I change the booth, put a table in front of me so I have something between me and people, back off, And I sold pillows. An interesting thing happened. I sold pillows that day, and the next day, almost everyone I sold to in that big home and garden show came back to tell me that this thing changed their life. He said, "This is phenomenal, It was absolutely amazing." Everyone who came back. And that wasn't about the money. It made me feel good inside that I had done something to help someone. my self-worth was just shot all my life. And at least I had a way then to sell my pillows. And that went on for 5-6 years. But during that time, the crack parallel track, I left 20-year marriage gone. These guys tried to take my pillow. One guy took it and fired me at the first board meeting. Fired from my own company. It's just crazy things that are in the book that the adversity to get through. And then one of the things in the book, if you read the prologue, I'm getting my head cut off on a trip to Mexico. Just I'm buying cocaine. I got caught up in with these cartels, and I'm going. The guy's cutting my head off with a sword. I said, "I'm not buying this sword." He said, "Senor, he doesn't want to sell you the sword. He wants to cut off your head." But these things, these crazy things kept happening to me. Well, then even the drug dealers in 2008. I come out of a room and there's 3 of them standing there. They're the biggest drug dealers in Minneapolis, and they're doing an intervention on me.
Yeah, that's right. So Epic Times, you recently did a profile story of him, and that's in there. And I was like, what kind of drug dealers do an intervention for one of their best clients?
Yeah, exactly. Well, here's why. 2 guys left, and it was the one guy stayed and he watched me in the chair, and he finally fell asleep. It was 2 a.m. and I was out of crack. I'd been up 14 days. I went down the streets of Minneapolis, and I'm walking around and looking all over the place. And I asked one of the drug dealers that went down there and got the word in the streets. He got interviewed for my book because he works for me now. He's a born-again Christian. And he said, well, how did you get the word? He goes, I just said, look for some crazy white guy there with a mustache that looks like he's been up all night. And so I get down the streets. I could not find crack anywhere. I come back upstairs, and that other dealer is sitting there, and he goes, give me your phone. He goes, how'd that work out for you? He goes, I'm taking a picture. You're going to need it for that book. And he said, here's exactly what he said to me. He goes, you've been telling us forever that My Pillow is just a platform for something much bigger, and you're going to quit someday and come back and help us all. And I would tell him that all the time. It was like prophesizing it. And he says, we're not going to let you die on it, die on us, because I was their hope. And 2 of them work for me now. I mean, and that's what I am doing now. I'm taking the money from the book and bringing it to this Lyndale Recovery Network to help addicts across the country. It's going to be the most amazing platform you've ever seen to help addicts, and it's going to be awesome.
So let's unravel this story a little bit. So I understand that you had kind of given them hope ahead of time, that you had this, during this whole trial you were going through, you created a product that people loved. Mm-hmm. You were still struggling with addiction yourself. And I think that even other people in that circle, even other addicts and drug dealers, saw potential in you.
Well, to go back to there, I had a bar for 13 years. I was always an entrepreneur, a small town bar. My friends I had there, we would ask, we'd go after the bar, we'd go to somebody's house, and I'd be sitting there telling them about, I read about in the Bible, when I was in jail, I'm telling them about end times and stuff, and tell them we should quit this as we're snorting our cocaine, and they would quit that night and find Jesus, or for sure quit, and I'm going, what did I say? I'm losing friends. And that's when we 28 people that I know of back then. Now, since I've quit, and now that hope, they seen when I was in the White House. This is when I first quit everything. I'm going, what's a liberal, what's a conservative? I didn't know anything about politics. Well, then Donald Trump invited me to in 2016 a private meeting with him because of My Pillow being so big. We talked about the inner cities, and we talked about what he was going to do to help the country, and it was just amazing. So I went all in. But when I ended up, he invited me. There was a manufacturer summit in the White House, and I came walking in. It was just surreal. Here's this guy from Minnesota, this ex-crack addict, and I go, "Who's sitting here?" He says, "The president. He wanted to sit by you." Now all my friends seen that on TV and going, "What? What is he?" It's like Forrest Gump. What's Mike? This guy on crack? He used to be on crack. He's sitting next to the president. Jesus has to be real because this is a miracle. They've all quit. I mean, every single crack addict I know, not just because of that day, but they've seen the hope. They've seen that hope, and that's and I'm taking that, and that's what I'm going to do for my network, for my Lyndale Recovery Network. It's basically kind of based on that. I had an interesting thing happen to me in 2009 when I did quit. In the December of 2008, the intervention by the dealers was in the spring of 2008. By this thing happened in the fall. My son moved out with a tear in his eye. He was 18. He said, "I can't live here anymore." And I knew I wasn't hiding anything. and his lips were quivering, and that hit home. A lot of things happened in '08, but one of the things that happened in December of that year, I was losing, everything was gone. The pillow was just a little heartbeat every time. So you'd get this little flick of a heartbeat. Well, my friend came, and I'm sitting in this house. I'm about to lose that in 2 weeks, and I hadn't seen him in years, or 3 years, and I'd heard he was my equal. We both started cocaine at the same time, so both started crack at the same time. But I'd heard he had got set free of it and found the Lord. Well, here he comes, shows up out of nowhere. I go, Dick, what are you doing here? He goes, the Lord led me here. He goes, what are you doing? And I go, I said, well, as long as you're here, I got a few questions for you. I said, is it boring? That was one of my first questions. He said, no, man, it ain't boring. But the point I'm making is, he's the only one that I've been in treatment centers, back in the 80s, oh yeah, they shame me. You feel like, bad enough as it is. You walk out of there without your drugs, you're going, I feel horrible that I did all these things to my family and whatever, and you feel even worse. Well, Dick was my equal. Any advice he gave me, I'm going to take, because he's been free for 3 years, and but I didn't quit that day. It was another month, and that was January 16, 2009, where I said, okay, it was not my bottom. It was basically, it was my bottom. What people say, I made sure I didn't have any money left or anything in traditional bottom.
Rock bottom.
Right, but the people always talk about it. For me, it was my calling was going to be gone. This platform now, and not of selling pillows, my evangelistic platform, my platform of trust that I can go out and help addicts now and speak out for Jesus, where I can go out and help, speak out my beliefs with having the greatest president ever in history. Do you get that? The things like that, where I can be a voice out there, a voice of hope. And this Lyndale Recovery Network that I've set up, this is just going to be so amazing, and just give people hope and destroy this addiction. What we're living in now, where every single addict, this is a quote from my book, every addiction affects everyone. It doesn't matter how many forks you eat with.
People don't realize it. They see people on the streets. They see them, especially now with the opium epidemic. Right. They see them, stumbling on the streets. They see them getting in crime, and they think that person's lost. There's no hope for him. Right. And
they're thinking, oh, he's an addict. Yeah, you know what? It's the hidden addict. There's addicts in every walks of life. Like I said, it doesn't matter how many forks you eat with. Now that I've been very open about my crack cocaine addiction. That's when I first met Donald Trump in the summer of '16, before he was president, they said, whatever you do, don't tell him you were a crack addict, blah, 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 and you're never going to meet him alone. I walk in there and we're alone. He says, Mike, you always wear your cross. He says, you a Christian? I said, yes, Mr. Trump, this is a divine appointment. And I started telling him, he goes, boy, your company, I want this all made in America. I'm going to bring jobs back. And I said, as soon as I started talking, I said, his passion was to help this addiction thing. I said, you know what? I was a crack cocaine addict. I just put it right out there, And it was just open honesty that I tell the public. And it's like, you can't help your past. You can only move forward in the future, and all these, addiction's a lot of work. Any addict out there, there is nothing harder than being an addict, and it's not just people in the streets homeless. And I think to take the shame out of it and say, a lot of addicts you go back to even 5 years before I started putting it out there, people would say they'd get set free of it. And now, that person, let's say it's a 22-year-old opiate addict or heroin addict, and now he might have a friend of his that's down the street, and those parents come and say, hey, how did your kid friend, oh, we don't want to talk about it, because they just want to, now they're okay. Nobody wants to, let loose and help and, just put it out there, because recovering addicts need to help addicts, and that's what it's going to be.
So let's talk briefly about your Lyndale Recovery Network.
Yeah.
What is it, and how is it different from things like, say, Alcoholics or Narcotics Anonymous and things like that?
You're going to see, a 22-year-old heroin addict might not relate to a 50-year-old meth addict, right?
People don't realize there's a big difference. Yeah.
A 25-year-old alcoholic might not relate to a 25-year-old crack addict. But if the closer you get in age and that exact addiction, okay, so what I've done, and this has been going 2 years now, and we're getting ready to launch. Here's what it is. You'll come to this website, and it'll be me talking. I'm going to tell them, I was a crack cocaine addict, so I know what I'm talking about. And these are addicts that are going to be watching this, right? So they're going to put there, I'm going to say, hey, you guys, put in your age and your addiction. They'll put in 30-year-old meth addict, their drug of choice. Now, all these stories, and they're not stories of bottoms. An addict is not, he can't relate to somebody else's bottom. I was ready to jump off a bridge or whatever. Now, if I'm an addict, I'm going, I'm not ready yet, so I can do more. Or I'm way worse than him. They can't relate. What they can relate to is the commonality of the drug. So all these, we've got thousands of them. So you'll put in 22-year-old or 30-year-old meth addict. All these 30-year-old meth addicts are going to come up there, and they're going to tell things that only a meth addict would know, what they didn't like about the drug. Like for me, for crack, it was I got tired of going out and finding chore boy or baking soda, buying spoons in the middle of the night. Everyone's going, well, what's that? Carving up a electrical cord to get to the wire to make a screen. Anyone out there that's on crack, go, yeah, he knows what he's talking about. So you have all these stories now, but the thing is, I look at you and you're set free. They don't tell them how they were set free. So now the addicts are going to go, I want that. That's my hope. These are all pictures of hope. Now, in order to get that, to find out where the help is, they have to go to, I vetted over right now 2,000 churches where they'll have to go get, to go to a church, or their family members can go to get this code that's going to open up the thing for this, and it's going to be online help. Those guys helping them online, the mentoring directly, having these online, almost like podcasts. Then I have the helps over here. I vetted over the last year and a half, 3,500 faith-based treatment centers in this country. These are the ones that work, have an 80% or plus success rate.
Well, people don't realize that they've done studies on this.
Yeah,
that without that spiritual element, it doesn't
without
work.
Without God, without Jesus, forget about it. You're a secular treatment center. They have monetized addiction in this country. It's a shame. You put ads on TV. Addiction's a disease, and you better help your addict. Blah blah blah. You know what? Addiction's not a disease. Addiction comes from wounds, from childhood, from fatherlessness, from trauma that manifests in you want to hide your pain. You want false courage because you feel like garbage. These are things where addiction comes from. And what they've done, these secular centers, you put them out there, go 30 days, $30,000. You got insurance? Oh, you don't? Sorry, we don't care about you. They have it's running through these addicts. They come out of there, and you don't have God, and you're going, you expect to have trust. You're not going to get that. You're not going to get that when you come out of these centers. The faith-based ones, I'll start from the top. Salvation Army, Teen Challenge, Union Gospel. They're the best in the world. And I'll have 3,500 centers up there that want to be up there. And the funny thing is most of them are at a 50% occupancy rate. They're free. A lot of them are free. No Rule 25. All donor based, and they're the ones that work, because here's the insurance that have put the ads out. So I'm going to get the word out. I'm going to take the addict as this is my audience, and I'm going to get the addict. I'm not going to prey on the family. Here's the addict. I'm going to get the addict help. I'm not going to prey on the family money. This is free.
Because a lot of times addicts, they don't have a lot of money laying around.
Right,
chances
that's why these secular centers, they prey on the families and they guilt them and say that you did this to your addict. You get them, you help, and then people they'll cash in their life savings to try and help their loved one. I'm telling you, the help is in the faith-based centers. Teen Challenge, Union Gospel, Salvation. They're in every state, but there's also and don't be fooled either. You look at these faith-based ones, that's why I'm going to have the whole catalog up there. Now you have those, but here's another thing I'm going to have. There's another group, it's called Life Relaunch. It's a whole nother platform. I've been doing it in prisons, and these guys, amazing group. This has been for 4 years. I got Operation Restore Warrior, where I got this, where I found Jesus. It was a 5-day, of course, it was actually for veterans. I was blessed to be able to go there. And that was a full surrender. But that was, by the way, on February 18, 2017. If you all see me wearing my cross, God was chasing me, and I wanted to be that person. But now I can speak out for Jesus like I used to a pillow. And anyway, but I've got these 2-day, it's a 2-day, it's called Life Relaunch. And you go back, these cores, and this is not online. This is real people doing real people. We're doing it in the prisons too. But you go down deep down, where those wounds were. And you get those wounds addressed from back when you were in childhood, or those traumas. Veterans go through, the biggest trauma on the planet. And they should be, we got to be helping them address them. And when I went into this course with Operation Restored Warrior, I walked in there and I'm going, I can't relate to these guys. These guys, this is, these guys have more stories and more tragedy, and I've never heard of such thing. And but we bonded because the one thing we all had was wounds, and but deep down, it's spiritual and
in other words,
yeah.
resolving the
Right.
fundamental issues that
Yeah.
make people want to do drugs to
Yeah,
escape
exactly.
from that pain in the first place.
Escape from the pain. There's a combination when that manifests to that. It's a combination of trauma. It can be a father wound. Fatherlessness is so big because there's more and more fathers. They did a poll in a prison. This was 2 years ago. I believe it was somewhere in Kansas. It said how many people. The inmates are felons now. How many of them, the percentage, where both their parents got married, planned their child, had their child, and were still together while that guy was still or the person was still in prison? Zero. You go up to county jail level, the gross misdemeanors, it goes up and it goes up from there. But it tells you where we've lost the family unit. We've took God out of our schools. We've lost the family unit and how important that was. It's just. And we got it. God gave us grace on November 8th, 2016, and we've got to take advantage of that. These times we're living in, we are the best. We talk about consumer confidence and all that, but we also have to turn our country back to God and family, and that's it. If they and get an addiction too. Another thing about addiction, I seen this on another show. Don't know if it's true, so don't quote me on it. But in right around 1970, we had I think it was 3 million people in mental institutions. Okay, back then we didn't have the technology, and there was a movie. Remember that one Flew Over the Cuckoo's that scared everybody.
Right.
That they're bad. They're doing lobotomies and stuff. And then I believe that nobody wanted to live by them, so they just started folding up. And now we have 40,000 or some people in the mental institution. Well, where are they all? They're on the streets. It's sad. Now we have the help where we can help them, and get them help, and it's amazing. We have a great president when he's putting all this money. I was there when he signed the opiate bill, and these are going to help states and stuff. I think he just released money the other day again to help with our, we have people that have mental problems. Well, they'll turn to addiction too because they're out there, and then you have, I don't know. I just think it's gonna be. If we're all in this together, that is going to get solved, and we're going to get them help. And I've dealt with a lot of different entities now out there that I've been dealing with and kind of bringing it all together like a big hub of a bicycle. And I'm using all these things that are already there and just putting them together, and the addicts are going to go, you just got to show them hope. That's the key. The addicts need hope. Like all my friends that quit crack, they've all quit because of the hope. You got all these. I've had some kids very close to me die of addiction. Those kids need to see hope too, even more so, and not just they need to see a way out there because they didn't have all this stuff growing up that this foundation. A lot of them missed this foundation of God and family, and they're turning to drugs to hide even pain. But now you're dying. I always thought, what if they poisoned cocaine back in the day? Would I still do it? Probably,
What we're seeing now with fentanyl and stuff
yeah,
like that.
It's horrible. You're playing roulette with a gun every time you do it. But instead to see with my network, the Lyndale Recovery Network, all these pictures of your age of hope, and then you've got someone that's going to be giving you classes. It's not not the virtual reality where it's like a little podcast thing where they're going to be talking, and here's a person your age. The same drug that he was addicted to, you can relate to that. You're going, wow, this guy was like me, and he found the answer. And you just keep spinning and watching all these, going to all these different podcasts I'll have on there, and it's just one after another. And then when an addict sees someone his age and they see hundreds and hundreds of them, the same thing, wow, I want that. I'm going to go over here and get it. That's it.
So for you, we can step back a bit. You were addicted to cocaine, you had this idea of the pillow, and something happened where you not only wanted to help pull yourself out, but you saw a future for yourself. And you also saw that in your friends that you could help them break addiction. What was that moment when you had this vision?
Well, for one thing, I was a very functioning cocaine addict. I want to make it clear, crack and cocaine are two different things. Switch to crack, it changes, they're both bad drugs, but it changes to these paranoias and stuff. And I seen my friends when that came in, it was I seen something I'd never seen before, how powerful that drug was, the crack. And friends of mine that got on it, it took them down in 6 months. So it was very you could see it right before your eyes. I had a friend, he had $500,000 he wouldn't touch. It was inherited from his dad. He wanted to do something to really make his mother proud or whatever. And he waited and waited, and he was just so frugal and so careful. Crack took over, and he spent it all within, I don't know, 9 months to a year. It was this horrific watching these happen to my friends. Well, then it starts happening to me, and I'm looking at them. This is what I would talk about. I'm going, you guys, this isn't it, and I think I was kind of like that. I don't have a defining moment with that, because if you ask my friends, they say, you've been telling us that even back, 1984, and say, hey, this isn't the way. It's like I knew inside that someday, but I kept procrastinating. Like, my book was laid out. I've had 5 different writers help me. Well, we had it all laid out, all these stories. And there must have been hundreds of them. And I go, I don't know what to leave in, what to leave out. And he goes back, he said, just pick one. Boom. He says, December 1987. He goes, Mike, any person on the planet, most 99%, would say, wow, God is real, Jesus is real, and surrender on the spot, and drop all your drugs, whatever. And that meant something. He goes, maybe all these things keep happening to get you to quit and to do it, So I would see these things, and I'd see miracles too. I would say in my book, and I would tell my friends, I do if God exists by mathematics. I go, if that's, I go, wow, that's that happening, 1 in a million. Wow, the odds of this happening, 1 in a billion. The odds of something here might be, wow, that's impossible, but people put it off to chance. When you add them together in your own life, when do they become a miracle? I mean, I've had 14 near-death experience, from being burned, electrocuted, no parachute, all these different crazy things, but those weren't even the miracles that I was looking at. I became complacent on those, but it would be, you see things, you see the hope, and you see things happen, and to me, I guess it was just, when I knew, even with the pillow, it wasn't about the pillow. It never was. And I told my friends that. All it was the platform. It's an anomaly in history. I've been on TV. I did a thing for the Twins, and they checked. I was 2.3 million times. Well, that's to have that recognition, but then to use it for good. That's all I want to do. And it's never been about the money.
And I know even with your pillow is a bit of a miracle.
Yeah.
You created this pillow that people really did have, they
problems,
really fixed a lot of their sleeping problems.
Yeah,
but
that in itself, I thought everyone's going, wow, this is a miracle. That idea did come from God, but there's 43 million pillows now. I think of that number, I can't even wrap it. That's more than the Eagles sold their greatest hits, I'm going, for me, sure, I got my employees, we're like a big family and stuff, and I'm hiring, I give people second chances. But for me, as people come up to me, all the time, and they're going, this pillow, say, help me and change my life, But now they come up for, is secondary, they'll come up, wow, your story of hope, they'll talk about you're being a crack, you gave me hope, and I quit, you know what I mean, and that's to me is everything.
And I know even the commercials you did, the infomercials, you kind of, from what I understand, people said you couldn't sell like that, the way you were doing it.
Yeah.
You couldn't sell, right? And you just miraculously proved them all wrong.
They laughed at me. We even newspapers. I did first time I ever did a newspaper. I'm just holding this pillow, and some guy holding a pillow and going, just like all of you, I have problems sleeping. I put God bless Mike Lindell, and this is back in 2011. Or 2010, I guess, but I got calls from all these PR companies going, did you write this yourself? This is horrible. It went away from, well, let's just have a beautiful lady laying on a pillow and going, oh, I can look like that, or, oh, I might be able to marry her. You know what I mean? It's all this false advertising, and this, I just put it out there, and it worked. It was real. People said, when it first came out, they're going, you're wearing your cross, you got this weird jingle, what's wrong with you, And I'm going, but now people think, they've seen it, they'll watch them over and over, especially the half-hour ones, and they'll come up to me, I watch you all the time on TV. I'm going, it's not a sitcom. But it's fun because the realness comes across to them, and I feel like...
I think that's what people connect with, when they know they're talking to a person like them who's being honest with them and direct, and not trying to... Maybe not good at hiding things,
I sort of go, okay. I had a problem when I first went on the shopping channels. They're going, okay, here, you can't say these certain things. I'm going, gee, how am I going to do that? I don't have a filter,
People relate to it, though.
Yeah.
And it's
I
real.
think I had a down pillow once, and I was going duck hunting or goose hunting the next day, and I got this down pillow on a big shopping sale, and I go, these down pillows, they've ruined America. Matter of fact, I'm going to hunt some of these tomorrow. Oh, dude, the spike goes way up.
There you go. You broke the system. You broke the code.
It's fun. People say to me all the time, they go, how do you ever sleep? I said, well, when I do, it's quality, number one, but I said, they said, you're doing all these different things. And in fact, I was just on a network the other day, and this gal that was there, she said, you're doing all these things. Where do you find time? Like this book I have coming out. And I said, you know what? Talk to any addict out there. Addiction's a lot of work. I'm having fun now. I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and you take it. That's one thing I want to tell any addict out there. It's all the work of being an addict. And I said, I'll tell you what, when you do get healed and you get your heart restored, everything, it's not wasted time. You've already went through that. Anything you choose to do, any calling you have, the world is yours. I mean, it just because you can set the world on fire because they've been stuck in these, to all the work, I can't even tell you, to get the drugs, to hide the drugs, or the alcohol, whatever it is. I mean, they go through, it's an endless cycle, and then the wounds get worse because you'll make promises you mean at the time. So many promises of an addict makes, he'll pass a lie detector test at the time, but then you can't control once you get that drug or whatever,
And a lot of them too, I think, are real, genuine, good-hearted people
They are.
who
They're
get
the
pulled
best.
into these things.
I'll tell you, you've got things like the Salvation Army or Teen Challenge. There's companies like mine. We'll grab those guys that come out of there faster than you can imagine because they're the best workers on the planet, and the success rate, they're going to stay straight. They got a better I think they have a better success rate of staying straight than a straight guy. You know what I mean? They come out of there, their wounds are already healed. So it's like, I'll bet on some guy that's a social drinker, some straight guy over here, that, this guy here is going to be a way harder worker typically than I'm finding out, because he just wants to, prove himself,
Now, you mentioned, I guess, just as a last point, that you had this vision. The pillow, even though it worked incredibly well, even though it did do its good in its own right, you had a higher vision. And what is that vision?
The calling? The pillow has been just a platform. And when I met a gal, a chick, she's here today, Kendra, in 2014. My pillow was within 2 days of going under, okay? And she came on and she goes, we got together and she goes, you need to pray. And she says, and you don't have a relationship with Jesus Christ. And I go, what do you mean? I believe in God. And anyway, she was very much influenced me. And we went through 14, 15, 16, 17. And things started happening to me and I wanted that. I knew I had this big calling, evangelistic calling. I had a calling to help addicts and to give them hope. And so I wanted that, and I'm wearing my cross on TV and I'm putting it out there, but I couldn't, it was always right out of my reach. And then on February 18, 2017, that's where I went in Operation Restore Way. I went in there with hope, and Jesus showed up, and I came out with, now I can go out and speak out for Jesus like I did a pillow. I spoke to 50,000 millennials at US Bank Stadium. 50,000. The whole stadium was full, and I'm going, if you'd have told a guy that couldn't talk, and I'm out there leading him in a prayer, and and then about 2 weeks later, after that was spring of 17, I believe. 2 weeks later, I'm going, boy, it was so scary, but it was like, I wonder how, I didn't know if people listened, and we went to an amusement park, me and my granddaughter, 3 weeks later, and I'm telling you, I think every millennial in that amusement park came up and they're going, hey, wow, I was at this. He goes, you gave me hope. I found the Lord. And for what I said, this was a 3-hour or 4-hour event with Christian bands and other speakers. And here's this crack addict, 58-year-old or 59-year-old, whatever I was then, crack addict. And these millennials are listening because it was speaking there for what was real. They're just putting it out there, and it meant something. So that's where my book ends. It gets right up to just about a month ago. I was at Liberty College, and they gave me an honorary doctorate degree in business, and I was like, I don't know. They give me this, and I'm up there in front of 20,000 people, and that was just an honor. I almost started crying. I'm going, because I didn't graduate from college. I dropped out after the first quarter, and then I spoke out without a bench, with a microphone, and walking the stage to all these college students, and it was just afterwards they just flocked in with that hope and went down. Took hours to go talk to each one, and about entrepreneurship, about addiction, and there's so many things that just. Whatever God, and people ask me all the time, Mike, I heard you're gonna run for office. You're gonna run for office, and I said, I've been approached by every paper I think in the country or news channel, and I said, no, not right now. But if God had me run, I would run. But right now I gotta get behind the best president this country's ever had, and that's what I'm doing. And people said on that, they go, what are you doing? That's a big risk, whatever. I'm going, well, when I walked out of his office in 2016. I'm going, I knew God wanted me to go all in, but I went and talked to his employees, and they were just like talking to mine. You can learn a lot about a guy's employees. Every one of them had a story about him, and I'm going, you know what? I prayed about it, I was all in, and I don't look back. People say, well, Mike, doesn't that hurt your business? I said, let me tell you, ask me when my best day of my business ever was.
What's the best day of your business?
Right today, the day I'm sitting in. Every day it keeps getting better. Any of you business owners out there, any of you people out there, you can't live in fear. I want to say one thing. I got called about this lies about this recession that could be coming. There's no recession coming. I'll tell you, we're living in the best times in history. Highest consumer confidence ever, the lowest unemployment ever. My employees and stuff, and the people I see around me, they're out there taking chances on new inventions and on starting businesses and stuff, because you know why? They can fall back to a job. A while back, just a few short years ago, you don't have a safety net. People stayed in a job that was, because I don't like my job, I don't like doing this, I can't, but I got to do it to live. And even though now we can all get into things we enjoy, because there's more and more jobs, and consumer confidence keeps going up. We're living in great times, and our president will unite this country. I've always said it. Everybody loves our president. Some just don't know it yet. Sorry, I had to get a little political here.
So anything we missed you'd like to touch on? Any points you'd like to make?
No, I think I think we covered a lot.
So Mike, where can people find your book?
You can go to mystore.com, and that's the only place you can get it right now, the pre-sale. And that, by the way, the mystore.com is the platform I'm going to have for entrepreneurs to put their products up that I've vetted, good product. So that's where we're putting people there. We're going to, about 3 different things going on. You buy the pre-sale of my book at mystore.com, and you're going to get $10 off for getting it early, but that money is going to go help launch that Lyndale Recovery Network and get this launched. I want to get it out there as soon as possible. I'm going to be paying all these jobs for these guys, for these mentors, for these people that need jobs, and the jobs they're going to love, because they're going to be helping other people like they were once like.
3-for-1 deal.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a 3-for-1. mystore.com, the book, What Are the Odds? From Crack Addict to CEO. You're helping the Lyndale Recovery Network.
And just real quick, mystore.com is your kind of Amazon
answer,
which is for entrepreneurs.
This is right, exactly. That's my dream too, of all these entrepreneurs in our country. Products get taken from us. They get copied, brought in from overseas. They get copied. You look on TV and wow, there I was. You let your ideas sit, because entrepreneurs are scared. They don't want to take a chance of putting all in, and because and now we're living in great times, and now I'm going to have a safe platform for entrepreneurs. You don't have to go up on Amazon and have your product copied and fight them and give all the money to Silicon Valley, and then the box stores you get in there. It's hard in the box stores. Let me tell you, here's a big problem with our country when it comes to any place they're selling product. They don't care if they work, they only care if they sell, and that's sad.
Great. Well, Mike, real pleasure having you.
It's been awesome.
Yeah. Thanks again.
Thanks, everyone. God bless you.
Great. And everyone, please remember to like and subscribe. See you next time.